Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and today's contract tip has to do with a provision of license law and a suggestion as to how to put that into your practice. So, license law under unfair trade practices provision, or that section of the law, under OCGA 43-40-25B, subparagraph 13, and OCGA 4340-25B26 talks about license laws, that it is an unfair trade practice to work with a public person, a buyer or a seller, and engage them in a brokerage engagement if you have reason to believe that they already have a brokerage engagement signed with another broker. And I will actually read you what the law says, then we'll talk a little bit about how to put this in practice. So, unfair trade practice, OCGA 4340-25B13 states, inducing any party to an existing contract or a brokerage agreement to break such contract or brokerage agreement for the purpose of substituting another contract or brokerage agreement with another principal. That's an unfair trade practice. Similarly, it is an unfair trade practice per OCGA 4340-25B26 to obtain a brokerage agreement or contract from a party while knowing or having reason to believe that another broker has an exclusive agreement with such party, unless the licensee has written permission from the broker having the first exclusive brokerage agreement. So what does this mean, and how do you put that into practice? So basically, for example, let's just say you have a potential buyer that comes up to you and says, will you help me buy a house? And you, of course, say, well, are you already working with another agent? And let's just say the buyer says, yes, I was, but that agent isn't doing a good job for me, or they don't have time for me, or for whatever reason, and the buyer says, quote, I have fired my agent. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that the buyer is just ignoring the agent's calls and emails and texts? Does that mean that the buyer has gotten on the phone and said, I no longer want to work with you, I fire you? Have they actually sent an email? Have they sent anything in writing? Have they had a conversation with the previous broker? So have they actually terminated their brokerage agreement, whether it be a buyer brokerage or a listing agreement? Now, in a listing agreement, you have a little bit more hint if the listing had been an FMLS, a Georgia MLS, because you can see if it has been withdrawn. But there's still a caveat to that. So even if your buyer says, yes, I fired them in writing, well, you guys, that's not just good enough, because they have signed a contract with the previous broker. They have signed either a listing contract or a buyer brokerage contract with the previous broker. If you have a public buyer or a public seller that says, even if they say, I have terminated my buyer brokerage agreement, I have terminated my listing agreement in writing, was it unilateral? Was it mutual? Even if they have terminated it, they might still potentially owe something financially to the previous broker. And as far as brokerage engagements go in agency, you can always be fired from representation, but you may not necessarily be fired from compensation. So one of Greg's main responsibilities is to look out for the best interest of the public, which is why they have these two license laws. Because if you work with this, again, potentially buyer, and they close on a house with you, they may still potentially owe a commission to their previous broker, and that is not looking out for the best interest of the public. So even with a listing agreement, just because you see a listing agreement showing withdrawn in FMLS or Georgia MLS, that just means that the marketing and advertising in the MLS system has been changed. That does not necessarily mean that the public seller has actually terminated their listing contract with the previous broker. So if you have a seller that that does want to fire you, so to speak, or that you want to release, not only do you need to change it in the MLS services, you also must terminate the actual listing agreement. Now, in the GAR contract forms, there are unilateral as well as mutual terminations of brokerage engagements. The unilateral termination, you'll see it has, on both of them, it has information about fees that are potentially owed or not owed based on the circumstances surrounding the termination and the negotiation between the public buyer and the public seller and the broker. And if you are working with the RE forms, then you would simply just use a general amendment. And what you're doing is amending the brokerage agreement, whether you are amending the listing brokerage agreement or the buyer brokerage agreement. So again, you need to, if you are an agent and you have a public person that wants to do business with you, and you have reason to believe that they have signed another agency agreement with a previous broker, you must get, per the license law, you must get written permission from that broker, having that another broker has an exclusive agreement with such party, unless the licensee has written permission from the broker having the first exclusive brokerage agreement. So, how do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to do is actually inform your public buyer or seller. You need to have this discussion with them that just because they have fired their previous broker, number one, how did they go about doing it? Was it in writing? Was it mutual? Do they still owe any money, potentially compensation to the previous broker? And has that all been addressed either with the agent or the broker? And then what you need to do is find out who that previous broker is from the public person. So suggest that you, if you are a maximum one agent, this is a policy, but if you are watching this video, this is a suggestion, please run it by your broker. But suggest that you send an email to the former broker agent stating blank, the name of your public buyer or seller, has approached me for representation regarding real estate transactions. I have reason to believe that this buyer has terminated the brokerage agreement with your firm. In compliance with license laws OCGA 4340-25B13 and OCGA 4340-25B26, please confirm this termination. If I do not hear back from you within 24 hours, I will accept the non-response as confirmation of the termination of the brokerage agreement with your firm. Again, you just have to confirm the termination. If, however, the buyer or seller refuses to furnish you with the contact information of the previous broker they had been working with, then again, I suggest that you, in writing, write I, put in the name of your buyer or your seller, affirm that I have no written obligation to work with any other broker for my real estate needs. All parties agree to indemnify and hold agent and brokerage harmless from and against all claims, injuries, suits, and damages arising out of the party's answer to the above choices. And then you have your public person sign that. So again, just wanted to bring to your attention 2 issues with license law and some suggestions as to how you may put those in your actual real estate practice. Thank you guys so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education.